That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're back again with Red Line Live. I'm your host, Joe Demers. Yep, we have to continue with the conversation because there's a lot coming out about this so-called disclosure, including the new release from Steven Spielberg, who has come out of retirement to make a documentary movie, or maybe it's not a documentary, but anyways, it's a movie called Disclosure Day on the backside of this new one that just came out called what is it? The Disclosure, The Age of Disclosure. That's what it is. Almost messed that up there. But we have to talk about it. I'm going to do a review. I did watch the full video of Age of Disclosure, bought it on Amazon Prime there. And a few other shows because, ladies and gentlemen, like I always talk about, the truth is not trending. It's eternal. So there's a lot of spiritual implications here, a lot of talk going on in the prophetic space and in the pastoral space about disclosure that's going to be released. They even to the point that they're going to say that President Trump is going to come out and say that we're not alone, right? But ladies and gentlemen, this is not alien tech. This is tech that we own, and it is being distributed and made, but a concept that not very many people are talking about in this age of AI that we're going into is the fact that this is all due to quantum computing. Yep. It is. There are theories from in the 1900s, ladies and gentlemen, that these things were already thought of back then. And we may have even had some concepts on those theories that were created in the early 50s, right? And 60s. That's why they say that they have evidence from crash sites and reverse engineering alien technology to get us where we are today. But ladies and gentlemen, that's a smoke screen. Hello, that's a smoke screen. And we own this stuff. We've made this stuff. And now that quantum computing is a thing, it has greatly enhanced and accelerated those theories being put into play. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you today as we go into this. So join me next, and we'll go into it deep. All right, so The Age of Disclosure. This is the movie that I was talking about. Here's the poster for you, and I'll just go into this. So initially, one of my first takes on this is the fact, and this is early on in the show, is they talk about how even our highest governmental officials, like the president himself, are on a need-to-know basis because, ladies and gentlemen, this technology is owned by contractors, contract institutions, and the people in this film start out by talking about how they have knowledge of this stuff and their lives are threatened. And it's not because we were the first to get to some crash site or something, right? It's because these theories were already thought of many years ago, and they're actually being put into play. Come on. Y'all should know about Nikola Tesla, right? His was the Tesla coil and his theory on how to get free energy. We hear about free energy weaponry, right? Supposedly being used to do some of this weather changing stuff. And there's other theories that that I don't know if you guys know about that that were thought of back in the 20s. Okay, Einstein's era, where these theories came out in counter to his. So these theories were always out there, and now that we have quantum computing, these theories are becoming a reality now in our day. That's why things are changing. That's why you're seeing weird things in the skies. That's why you won't understand when some of the things that are going to come out where they came from, and that's why they can continue to say that it's alien, right? Because it's something we've never experienced before. So it must have come from some other planet, right? Wrong. So that is a beginning of the age of disclosure there that I wanted to start off with. But then they also go into the fact that they know things about 0 point energy. Now, where does 0 point energy come from, ladies and gentlemen? 0 point energy is a product and a study of quantum field theory, right? So that's where that comes from. So where does quantum field theory come from? Well, the original guy who was widely credited his name was Paul Dirac from the late 1920s. He came up with a theory particularly called quantum electrodynamics, or QED, right? By merging quantum mechanics with special relativity and quantizing the electromagnetic field. So, like in my last show, I showed you guys the T-800 that China supposedly have, the Terminator movies where you have that morphing metal. Okay, these are the type of things where we're about to see, and I'm going to show you here in a little bit how far advanced they've actually gotten. That opening video there shows you they already have the type of technology that actually the Terminator movie shows the T-1000 was, where the morphing robot can go through bars and all kinds of stuff and reform, right? Well, that's all based on quantum mechanics and quantum field theory, right? And we are actually approaching the time where they have control over this type of stuff. And you're going to see here in a minute, it gets kind of freaky. Through Pascual Jordan, also made crucial early contributions to applying quantum rules to fields, setting the stage for later developments in physics like Heisenberg, Pauli, Feynman, and others. Paul Dirac, considered the father of QFT for his paper on quantizing the electromagnetic field, introducing creation and annihilation operators, the foundation for particles appearing and disappearing. So see, he wrote papers on this stuff. He developed excuse me, equations for electrons and merged quantum mechanics with relativity. And Pascual Jordan independently developed methods for quantizing fields, introducing creation operators for Feynman's or fermions, excuse me, like electrons, and recognizing the field particle duality that Dirac later formalized. So this stuff sounds, very foreign. Obviously, if you're not into IT stuff like that, it's like I'm speaking another language to you, right? But this stuff is real, ladies and gentlemen. These are concepts that pioneers of our time have actually all come up with in the past for study of how the universe came to be and how things work, right? So all of these guys are complicit in the study of this stuff. So Werner Heisenberg and Wolfgang Pauli established the basic mathematical structure of quantum field theory by applying canonical quantization. Some of these words are like, whoa, directly to the fields themselves, a framework still used today. QFT began with quantum electrodynamics, focusing on light and matter. See, this is all going to come to play here in a second, ladies and gentlemen, because I wanted to bring you into what the current studies of quantum field theory are and how far advanced we've gotten to them. And the main one is going to be communication. It's crazy what they've already come up with. And it needs to be exposed. It needs to be revealed so that we have a strong basis of understanding as we go into this stuff and not allow them to say that this stuff is alien tech, because we know that they have it based off of our knowledge from these theories in the past. And now it's all coming to fruition with the studies of it in quantum computing and being able to develop it because of quantum computing. All right. So, they talk about 0-point energy in the show, right? And they also talk about, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to believe this, but a warp bubble, which is a concept that they say they have gained by reverse engineering, supposedly, right? And it allows for a stationary, let's say, craft or item within this bubble to be still inside this bubble while this warp bubble can move at ultralight speeds. Now, I want to show you this because the concept of a warp bubble and warp drive did not have a specific, widely recognized scientific or common name in the 1920s, as it was primarily a burgeoning idea within science fiction. The terminology evolved over time with different authors. Here are the key terms used in that era. Space warp, which was author John W. Campbell coined the term hyperspace in his 1931 story Islands of Space, which he described as a space warp used to bypass the light speed barrier, faster than light travel, or FTL, right? The general concept of traveling faster than the speed of light was a common theme in science fiction to circumvent the limitations imposed by Einstein's theory of relativity. Hyperfast travel within general relativity when physicist Miguel Alcubierre proposed the first modern theoretical framework of a warp drive. In 1994, the original title of this paper was Hyperfast Travel Within General Relativity. His supervisor later renamed it Warp Drive to make it more appealing. The term warp bubble is specifically associated with Alcubierre's 1994 mathematical model known as the Alcubierre metric. Now, when I was looking all of this stuff up, the Alcubierre metric is something that we just learned in another quantum field of study where they discovered a warp bubble on a nanoscale, ladies and gentlemen. So they have this technology. Now, to what scale they've been able to expand it into hasn't been revealed yet. But if you go into this study, you will see that they have discovered the technology of a warp bubble. And they reveal it in this movie. So this isn't some alien tech that they discovered, because if you look up the information, you will find that that in their studies on a different area of quantum field theory, they discovered this nano scale warp bubble. And they say in the study that they actually tried to combine a couple of these warp bubbles and try to expand the use of it, right? Because on a nanoscale, it's not very easily usable. Where a region of flat space is carried along by a contraction of space-time in front of it and an expansion behind it. So that's the concept they used in order to try to develop a warp bubble, and they actually found it, right? The specific theoretical model did not exist in the 1920s. And so that's another area that they really talk about in this show, that we actually do own and have this technology for real today. Okay. Now, I want to go into a few other shows here, because I think it's really important to point out the type, they show us, I truly believe, through subliminal messaging, and they show us what they're doing. They show the evil that they're into, and what is actually, what I believe is going to bring about the mark of the beast system, right? Because this is all about control mechanisms. Seriously, in quantum study, this is what it all becomes about, because really what they're trying to do is figure out the physics of our universe and how it came to be, right? How we came to be, the original creation of God, because what they're really trying to be God themselves. They're trying to be God. They're trying to be able to create eternity like God has a hold of and is the king of, right? Where we go at the end of our lives. And they want that. They want that power. They want to hold that power. And this is why they're going into this stuff. It's absolutely insane. So this next show, and I've talked about this before in my past shows that I've done, is called Three Body Problem. Now, there's a lot of parallels in these shows that I want to talk about, because it's interesting how so many shows are out right now that talk about the introduction of these quantum concepts, right? So in this show here, the beginning is all about getting a signal from an alien planet, and they curtail this Chinese scientist who is able to send the signal back using the sun to the planet in order to interpret what the signal is trying to say, right? And at the same time, they use virtual reality glasses where they're able to interact with this supposed other world, where in the game, if you die in reality. It's a crazy show. And then you see this eye here, just like with the new Steven Spielberg movie that is going to be released in June of this next year. You see the eye through transparent pictures of a person in the background where the eye comes forth. So a lot of the eye usage in this stuff is definitely weird. Some people say it represents the god of Ra, or the all-seeing eye, stuff like that. But this picture here, this lady comes up with a scientific study theory, which actually comes to fruition, where she creates this electromagnetic box that does a bunch of different stuff, right? And because she was able to break this theory into reality, she is one of the targets of this alien signal because they're supposedly heading to Earth. And she is one of only a few people that see this countdown. And that's why they show it superimposed over her eye, right? She's actually seeing this countdown anytime she's working towards this implementation of what she uncovered into reality, out into the open for everybody to see. So she quits her job. And as soon as she quits, when she stops working with the material, then the numbers go away. And she has to deal with the reality of the fact that this countdown could mean the end of the earth as we know it, the end of humanity, whatever. It really freaks her out, right? And so I want to draw these parallels. So this is, let's see. So in other words, what I want to get to with these shows is it's all about communication. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. This one I'm actually watching. It's on Apple TV. It's called Pluribus right now. And people have different concepts of what stands out most in this show. But to me, this one is, and this show is all about, they get a signal, right? These scientists get a signal from satellites on Earth, from alien planets, whatever, right? And these couple of scientists, they interpret the signal, and originally it didn't amount to anything, but then as he was having a conversation with his other scientist buddy, he discovers that it's not actually a however they interpret the signal, but it actually equates to a like well, it ends up being a virus. So he figures out that it's a layered situation where it could actually be used, and he thinks it's medicinal, right? Like it could be used to heal people and stuff, but it ends up being a virus. Well, once it's fully released, then everybody but 12 people on Earth become this mind virus. And they're actually not a hostile supposed alien, right? But they take over all of humanity, and they work together, and they you know basically take over everything except for these 12 people. But they can't lie, they can't hurt you, they can't hurt animals, they can't lie. It's crazy, it's a crazy concept, but the point of the fact is it's communication. And the point to where I'm at in the show right now, because it only airs every Sunday, but the point to where I'm at right now is they're trying to figure out why the 12 weren't able to be taken over. And then they come to the point where they find out that they can, or that they know how to change those 12 into the hive, right? But they can't do it because they have to have consent of that person in order to do it. And of course, three of the 12 main characters so far have not offered their consent to do this. But what's weird about it is they don't talk about how, because the main character in the show is actually looking to discover how they can change back humanity and get the mind virus out of the people so that they can change back. Some of the people don't make it. In fact, they're saying like millions, like 800 million people actually weren't able to receive the mind virus and actually passed away from it, right? Kind of crazy concept there. But so they're and all the while they're trying to say that they're not hostile, but because they took over people's bodies, it unalived a bunch of people. Pretty crazy. But again, this is another show where it's all about communication. Now, this one in particular, I find very interesting because of the new trailer that just dropped for Steven Spielberg's show that's supposed to be coming out in June, is the fact that um, it too looks like, it shows a reporter standing in front of the news camera, and she's projecting the news out to the population, and she starts to change, and all of a sudden does like this weird clicking noise like an alien, and then in a couple more frames it shows their eyes changing to a different color as if they've been taken over from within. Some people say it's possession, right? Some people say that the aliens are back and they're taking over our bodies. In the prophetic space, in the pastoral space, they talk about the fact that it could be these disembodied Nephilim that have come back and are now taking over bodies, right? But I have a different concept and a different theory that I think, and this is actually pretty scary to even think about, but I want to get into that. So, Pluribus, a really good show, ladies and gentlemen. Go look it up. I recommend you watch it, especially if you really want to know what the heck is going on in our world. This next show, Alien Earth. I also have watched this show. Very, very creepy. So, also, this show brings in another concept, the concept of avatars, right? So this billionaire in this show actually is able to take consciousness, and they do this study where they bring in kids that are ill and on their deathbed, right? And so they take their conscious and they transfer it into avatars. Well, these avatars end up being something of superhuman strength because they're not actually human. Not sure exactly what they're made up of, but the fact remains the concept of an avatar is a reality in the show. Not to mention the fact that the next Avatar movie has just released too, right? So I think that's what the third install of the Avatar movie, and we're talking, with the concept of an avatar. So this is one of the reasons why I think in the last show where I talked about there's supposedly grays and whites where they've discovered these aliens, right? Except I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's technology that they've discovered, and they're able to make these avatars, and that's part of their plan, is to transfer consciousness supposedly into these avatars, and people can live for eternity, again playing God in these avatar type bodies, right? So these avatars are supposedly superhuman, and they have superhuman strength. The aliens from the actual movie Alien are rediscovered, and they come down from a space study, and the spaceship crashes because obviously the alien destroyed everybody inside, and it gets loose on the earth, right? So this girl who was rescued and put into one of these avatars is actually goes to save her brother because her brother is with the military, and they go to confront this alien. And so she takes down this alien, and these things are supposedly way stronger than any human being, which is why we are unsuccessful in bringing them down. In every alien movie, that's what ends up happening, right? Same thing in this show. But she takes this thing down and like either gets stabbed or something, but somehow it communicates. There's that word again. It communicates with her, and somehow integrates with her. And so she starts, they actually capture one of these things and cage it up, right? But she starts talking to it in its language, ladies and gentlemen, just like with this movie and with this movie, Disclosure Day. This is Steven Spielberg's new one, where she's clicking like this alien talk. Interesting. Now you correlate that with like this end time theory, right? In Revelation, that this image that we create to the first beast, Satan, with one of his 7 heads, where it looked like it was dead and it came back to life, and we create this image which the second beast breathes life into, right? And brings it alive, and it can talk to the dragon. Now, I've said this on one of my other shows too. How is it that this thing that we create can talk like a dragon? But we see the same concept in these shows. It's about the communication, right? And so they are able to talk and communicate back and forth. Now, I want to go back to the fact that the quantum field studies is what's creating these technology right now. Now, all of these concepts in these shows are obviously a psyop, a smoke screen to make you believe that we've discovered some sort of alien technology, right? But ladies and gentlemen, I also want to disclose to you, I'm going to do some disclosure, right? I want to disclose to you that not only are our top studies in quantum field theory right now they're in communication with something called QKD, that's quantum key distribution, and hybrid electromagnetic alloys. This is the kind of stuff that we're going to start seeing come to reality. And I think it's first going to be introduced in our military, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't believe me, watch this.
I work at the Skunk Works, and it's got a legacy of doing the things that people don't think can be done. Flying very high, flying very fast, making airplanes invisible to radar. Where do we go next? That's always the fun question.
Right now our airplane designs are very reductionist. We have fuel over here. We have the cockpit. We have the engine. They're all separate parts. What if we could integrate those parts together in a holistic manner?
Can we do things like embed the carbon nanotubes to make conductive structure so that information doesn't flow through a wire next to a structure, but literally flows through the structure?
We'll be able to grow or make a structure that, say, is the skin of an aircraft, that inside of that is also contained the sensors or the energy storage or many different multiple functions.
New materials that are on the lab bench right now, they can literally change shape on command. They can become almost a muscular material.
We could have an airplane that optimizes its shape for the different flight conditions it's in.
There's definitely a lot of amazing technology that's going on with the Lockheed Samurai, based on a small maple seed-like looking device. The fact that we can package enough energy for something like that to fly and still carry a sensor, a camera, enough control capability for it to fly is amazing to me. As we go forward, we're going to find new ways of using these unmanned vehicles.
They'll probably be autonomous, so they'll be like UAVs, but carry cargo around where there are currently no infrastructure in place.
We may have small swarms of small vehicles interacting with a larger vehicle that basically combines the information from that swarm. So maybe one vehicle flies a small distance and another vehicle learns from it and knows which way to fly.
Probably what makes sense is a heterogeneous swarm. One where not every element of the swarm is the same. Some elements of the swarm carrying sensors, some carrying other types of electronics. So it's an adaptable system that can adapt to a changing environment and a changing future that is difficult for us to predict.
The true value of research is not in the answer you get that you knew you were looking for, but the answer that you find that you didn't know to look for.
See that, ladies and gentlemen? Like, what in the world? That, ladies and gentlemen, is Lockheed Martin. Now, what's interesting is in the last show I did, I also revealed the Genesis mission, right? Which the president actually started up, is a culmination of these AI companies coming together. The thing that the age of disclosure talks about, right here, is the fact that these contractors, these institutions like Lockheed Martin, are the ones with this technology. And interestingly enough, the Genesis mission is run by none other than the Department of Energy, ladies and gentlemen. See, these things are already here. They're just not telling us. Even in that show, you have Marco Rubio sitting there that back when he was a senator saying that the president himself is on a need-to-know basis. Okay? So they are discovering these concepts and studying them and starting to putting them out there. That's why you see things like the drones in New Jersey and stuff that everybody's like, ooh, orbs in the sky, it must be alien, right? Wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, this stuff is for real and we've created it. Okay? That we need to get this into our brains, into our understanding, so that we have a solid foundation going forward. Because this is where we draw the red line. We don't blur it, right? Okay, so now I want to show you the most advanced studies that we're doing right now include this one right here. And I want to bring this into you. Why is it doing that? I want to bring this into your attention here. Give me just a second. I don't know why that's not sharing. There we go. All right. So let's read through this. This is, ladies and gentlemen, quantum communications in 2025. This is our #1 study right now. A lot of people are talking about how G6 is about to come out, right? We have 5 now with our telecommunication systems, right? So this is key advances right here. Quantum communication has rapidly matured into a key pillar of the emergency quantum internet, leveraging principles such as entanglement and uncertainty to deliver information theoretic security. This report surveys major theoretical and experimental milestones, including high rate and long distance quantum key distribution. There it is, the QKD, right? This is the biggest, most advanced study we have going on right now. World record telequam teleportation, entanglement swapping in multi-node networks, and advances in decoherent management, and highlights critical hardware innovations like integrating photonics, chip-scale QKD systems, and high-efficiency single-photon detectors. Ladies and gentlemen, we're literally living in the world of Jimmy Neutron. Hello. We review prominent ground and satellite-based QKD deployments in China, South Korea, Europe, and beyond, and examine the roles of industry leaders. Right? You can see here's these institutions in commercializing quantum links and QRNG-enabled devices. Finally, we analyze ongoing challenges in network scalability, fault tolerance, and integration with post-quantum cryptography, and outline a hybrid multi-layered vision for a global quantum secure communication infrastructure, ladies and gentlemen. Quantum communication is an emerging branch of information technology utilizing quantum mechanics principles like entanglement and uncertainty to enable secure data transmission. Now, this is very important because, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the fact that it requires communication in all these different areas. It requires communication in all of these different areas of study, because just like in that video, I got complications going on here, just like they showed in that video with the aircraft, right? That those sensors and the material within the plane itself had shape-shifting capabilities. And it's important to recognize the only way that that's possible is through communication. So it's ground to air, right? This first study here that I was just reading to you is their first successful teleportation from ground to satellite, ladies and gentlemen. They teleport information, data from the ground to satellite. Teleport. Did you catch that? They teleport it. How they do that, I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, that's my point. This is quantum computing. All right, let's read on. Unlike classical systems, which rely on computational complexity for security, quantum communication systems guarantee security through physical laws. Over the past 2 decades, this field has seen remarkable growth, becoming a cornerstone of the quantum internet. This report reviews key theoretical and experimental advancement, hardware achievements, operational and commercial projects worldwide, and the challenges of future directions for quantum networks. They're rolling this stuff out, ladies and gentlemen, already. Theoretical and experimental advancement. Recent years have witnessed significant theoretical and experimental progress in quantum communication protocols and phenomena. Hello, phenomena. They just used that word in their own study release here. So if you're curious whether or not this is alien stuff, they're showing you right here. This section explores advancements in quantum key distribution, quantum teleportation, entanglement swapping, quantum repeaters, and decoherence management. All foreign stuff to us, right? We don't know this stuff. We're not scientists. Quantum key distribution is the cornerstone of quantum communication, offering perfectly secure encryption. By transmitting single and entangled photons between 2 users, QKD generates a one-time pad key with quantum guaranteed security. Recent advancements are notable. Secure key generation rates have exceeded 100 megabytes per second in labs, ladies and gentlemen. The key transmission over distances beyond 1,000 kilometers has been demonstrated using satellites and drones. These achievements paved the way for long-distance quantum internet applications. For instance, China's Messias satellite achieved key distribution between ground stations 1,200 kilometers apart. In fiber optics, the twin field QKD protocol set a distance record in 2021. So there's a key mark right there for you to know how long that they've had this and they've been doing it. Toshiba researchers successfully performed QKD over 600 kilometers using dual band phase stabilization, enabling secure communication between distant cities without trusted nodes. Additionally, advanced protocols like device-independent QKD and continuous variable QKD has been developed to address equipment vulnerabilities and boost key rates. Now, this one right here, this is creepy right here. Quantum teleportation. We're talking about warp bubbles. We're talking about hybrid electromagnetic alloys. We have teleportation, ladies and gentlemen. And if you watch the Terminator movies, you will see that they have, especially in the last one, Genesis, they have the ability to time travel. Quantum teleportation transfers a qubit state between locations using entanglement and classic bit transmission without physically moving the particle. Recent experiments have achieved record distances. In 2017, Chinese scientists teleported a photon state from Tibet to the Messias satellite in low Earth orbit, 1,400 kilometers, ladies and gentlemen. Proving global scale ground to space teleportation is feasible and opening paths for ultra secure continent scale communication. In ground networks, and I'm going to tell you why this is super important, especially as we approach the end times. Okay. In ground networks, teleportation between non-adjacent nodes has been achieved. For example, in the Netherlands, a 3-node network used solid-state quantum memories to teleport qubits between non-directly connected nodes, highlighting teleportation's role in networked quantum information transfer. Entanglement swapping and quantum repeaters. Entanglement swapping enables particles that never integrated directly to become entangled via an intermediate node. Now, I'm going to get into this here in a minute because this part right here is also very scary. Forming the basis for quantum repeaters that address signal loss in long channels. Laboratory multi-node networks have been successfully implemented. The Netherlands 3-node network demonstrated entanglement swapping across 2 links, with Bob performing a Bell measurement to entangle Alice and Charlie despite no direct quantum link. So they named these repeaters, right? This network also showed the potential for multi-node entanglement distribution, a key step toward a quantum internet. Quantum repeaters require advanced technologies like high-performance quantum memories. In 2021, research groups in Barcelona and China independently demonstrated entanglement with memories over tens of kilometers. Published in Nature, laying the foundation for repeaters, advances in superconductors, trapped atoms, ions, and solid-state defect centers as memory nodes keep hopes alive for extending network ranges. The Delft network serves as an early repeater prototype linking 1.3 kilometer segments as a quantum memory. Okay, so now I want to get into why I think this is important. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as I demonstrated with these shows, right, each one of them is about communication, not just from a signal that's supposedly from another planet and interpreting it, right, but to the fact that they're able to communicate with supposed other alien life. Now, with the Terminator movies, one of the things that make the T-1000 possible in transferring, and just like the opening video I showed you where they successfully did it with hybrid electromagnetic alloys, melting it down, and then reforming back into a solid. This is the communication. This is that type of communication, ladies and gentlemen. They are demonstrating it through subliminal messaging for real scientific show, as I showed you at the opening. And ladies and gentlemen, with weaponry in our US government, morphing technology, because the sensors and the material inside, they said in that video I just played for you, can change. And it's all about having the communication, and they can do it at these super long distances. Now, another part of that study in communications is called quantum signaling, right? And I believe that this is one of the main things that are involved in communicating with the material in a electromagnetic alloy, right? And making sure that it can reform into whatever solid they want it to, which is why with these military planes, that they can change into whatever they need it to adapt to the environment. Pretty scary stuff. If it can camouflage for itself for, let's say, warfare, and our enemies don't even realize that it's there, that's a massive concept. And supposedly these things can change color, change shape, and still fly, stuff like that. I wanted to show this other article here. Let me see. Let me just read it to you. This study says may lead to improved network quantum sensing. Okay, this is a study they did from the University of Rhode Island. A 4-mode linear network, U for generating useful entangled states. Could global positioning systems become more precise and provide more accurate details on distances for users to get from point A to point B? What? A study by University of Rhode Island assistant physics professor Guy, in collaboration with Kurt Jacobs, a physicist of quantum tech with the U.S. Army, there's the U.S. again, which was recently published by Physical Review Letters, may lead to more enhanced quantum sensing and make such detection data more definitive. Guy's study Heisenberg limited continuous variable distributed quantum meteorology. Try to say that one out loud. With arbitrary weight. So Heisenberg is one of these figures that I just told you and read you about in the beginning. That was pivotal in coming up with quantum field theory, right? So this is where they get that concept from, because he was one of the pioneers. An entangled network is a non-classical network where sensors can be described separately. Guy focused on whether and how the Heisenberg limit, the fundamental limit in quantum enhanced sensing, allowing estimation with a precision beyond classical approaches, can be achieved. The study found that a minimal setup can prepare useful entangled network and achieve the Heisenberg limit through 2 single-mode quantum states. That setup, Guy says, can measure a function of phase shifts, which can translate to improved distance measurement or other complicated signals of interest. In other words, if a person is using a GPS for travel, improved quantum sensitivity can lead to more precise information of a specific destination. It can make the GPS and time estimation more precise. This would affect the current GPS and everyday use. Can see they're trying to dumb it down as if that's all they're going to use it for. Guy's research focuses on theoretical quantum optics and quantum information. He explores fundamental limits allowed by quantum mechanics to access information, transfer information, and process information. He has now published more than 30 studies on quantum-related work. Now, I want to talk about a little bit more about hybrid magnetic alloys, especially in the form of magnetic liquid metals. For shape-shifting robots and reconfigurable electronics, the novel metal polymer conductors, MPCs, which combine flexibility with conductivity, moving beyond traditional solid-state magnets and alloys for applications like wearables and bioelectronics. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to just be in weaponry. We're going to see this coming out in wearables, and just like I'm sure you saw some of the videos where people are talking about how Elon said that we're not going to have cell phones in the future because of the capabilities of communication, right? It's going to go to wearables. They're admitting this right here. Plus research into rare earth free magnets, hybrid magnet designs, and magnetic refrigerants, showing ongoing innovation in creating new magnetic materials with unique properties. Inventions include magnetic liquid metals, MLMs, alloys like gallium. So gallium was that beginning video that I played for you guys where it broke down and then could form into a solid again. That was gallium. Indium, tin with iron particles that behave like a liquid but can be controlled and shaped by magnets, enabling shape-shifting robots and self-healing tech. Metal polymer conductors, MPCs, flexible circuits with liquid metal droplets and polymers, allowing bending and stretching for wearable tech, gloves, patches, and soft robotics, right? Hybrid magnets for research, combinations of different magnetic alloys like rich and lean alloys, hot pressed together to create stronger, more specialized permanent magnets. So our magnets are going to get stronger. Rare earth free motors. Ladies and gentlemen, why do you think that we're securing all of these rare earth materials, right? This is all involved in creating this stuff. Motors using advanced reluctance designs, not traditional magnets, to achieve high efficiency without expensive or environmental problematic rare earth elements. Magnetic refrigerants, new alloys designed for magnetic refrigeration, offering eco-friendly cooling alternatives to traditional compressors. That's not all they're going to use it for. These innovations create materials that are dynamic, flexible, and more sustainable, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with magnetism beyond conventional solid metals. Now, this is all coming to a culmination, what I want to get to here, and this is the freaky part to me. Okay, so we're talking about quantum key distribution and electromagnetic alloys, right? And communication. You see that it shapeshifts. You see that the breakdown of it goes all the way down to the nanoscale. And why is this important, ladies and gentlemen? Because QKD can work with nanoparticles and nanostructures as a control mechanism. And it's they are crucial for creating efficient, compact, and novel quantum light sources like quantum dots and nanoribbons and detectors, enabling QKD systems to generate, manipulate, and measure single photons for ultra-secure communication, moving it towards real-world applications. Okay, single photon sources, nanostructures like quantum dots, nanowires, nanoribbons can act as precise emitters of single photons, the fundamental particles of light used in QKD by being excited by electrical pulses. Now, I want to bring to your attention the fact that we just went through a pandemic. And we had a thing called how do I want to say this without getting flagged? The shot, right? Against COVID. How is that distributed, ladies and gentlemen? As an mRNA, which was infused with nanotechnology. If you look up the makeup of these nano pieces within the medical field of things like that, they are made up of these very things. These nanoparticles have these components within them, right? So my point being that they're into these photons now, like integrated photonics right here in front of me. Nanofabrication allows for integrating QKD components onto chips, silicon, indium phosphide, creating compact, low-cost, and reliable devices compatible with existing fiber optics. This is all about communication, ladies and gentlemen, but ultimately control. Nanomaterials like carbon nanotubes. That guy with Lockheed Martin was just talking about the material that made up these morphing planes had carbon nanotubes, right, in them. And graphene offer unique quantum properties for future QKD systems and post-quantum cryptography. New applications, nanoparticle-based QKD could secure devices like credit cards using nanoparticles that generate unique quantum patterns when hit by lasers. This is crazy to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, nanoparticles are excellent control mechanisms used to precisely manage things like drug release, microbial growth, material properties, and even cellular processes by leveraging their small size, high surface area, and tunable physical chemical traits for targeted actions, such as triggering release with magnetic fields or pH changes or physically disrupting pathogens. What can they do with nanoparticles with this type of communication when they're inside our bodies, ladies and gentlemen? When we have these shows showing us interruptions of our speech, interruptions of our brain activity, interruptions of our eyesight, what can they do? What can they attach those nanoparticles to in order to take over our bodies? Now, I don't believe that everyone that got that shot may be vulnerable, but they may be successful in doing it in certain human beings that had gotten many, many booster shots and did this over and over and over again. What do you think? What say you? Put it down in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Join this chat and let me know what you think about it. Nanoparticles can be engineered to carry drugs directly to diseased cells, releasing the drug only when triggered by external fields or internal conditions, right? That's why they use the mRNA, because it targeted it. Minimizing side effects. Silver, copper, and titanium dioxide nanoparticles can kill bacteria by damaging cell membranes acting as powerful targeted disinfectants. Modelization. Engineered nanoparticles can interact with immune system to enhance vaccines and develop novel immunotherapies. mRNA, ladies and gentlemen. In agriculture and environment, nanoparticles act as nanopesticides and nanofungicides, targeting specific plant pathogens and insect pests with high precision, offering sustainable crop protection. They can control crystal growth, creating materials with finer, more uniform structures, and can be manipulated to change optical or electrical properties for sensors or other devices. What? Magnetic nanoparticles can be guided by magnetic fields. Others release contents in response to pH, light, or temperature changes. High surface area allows them to adhere to and physically damage cell walls or membranes, and that's under the description of physical disruption, ladies and gentlemen. They can generate reactive oxygen species to introduce oxidative stress in pathogens. And it goes on and on and on, what they are able to do with nanoparticles in both magnetic manipulation and in QKD manipulation, ladies and gentlemen. This stuff is going to get really weird, really scary, really fast. And with beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is stuff we need to be praying about. This is stuff we need to be looking into, detox our bodies from the possibility of nanoparticles. Now, I don't know. People talk about the fact that that shot itself, even if you didn't get it, there's a thing called shedding, right? Where if you didn't get it, you could still absorb, let's say, nanoparticles. I've heard of the nanoparticles being in laundry detergent soap, and it gets on your clothes. All kinds of different stuff. But I think it's going to be, because they're on a nano scale, I think it's going to take a certain amount of, let's say, integration per individual for them to take full control, maybe, if that's where they're going to go with this. But ladies and gentlemen, I just presented to you a real scenario that could happen to make it look like the subliminal messaging is demon possession, is alien possession. Huh? What say you? Pretty crazy. And I, for one, am not going to fall for it. I want to bring this to your attention so that you have a sure foundation, that you can draw the red line in your own mind, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's all a psyop. And you know what? One thing I want to, I also want to mention before I close this out here real quick is the fact that the Antichrist is supposed to be able to call down fire from heaven, right? One of the things this QKD study does is further hieroglyphics, ladies and gentlemen. Don't believe me? Go look into it. And if they can teleport communication from the ground to a satellite, would it not be possible for such a fake person as the Antichrist would be in his false power to call down fire from heaven could actually be weaponry from a satellite? I'm telling you, they're trying to put on this performance like they're going to be God, and they're liars. We're going to beat you you institutions, you crazy people that want to be like God. You think you're going to subvert the King of Heaven, the one that created you, the one that put a soul and a spirit in your body and wants the best for you, wants eternal life for you. And you're going to try to subvert that, saying that you can be the same as if you were the creator yourself. Not going to happen. We're going to beat you. We're going to expose you. We are going to draw the line, the red line, in our lives, in our mind, and the red line against this world system. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for joining me today. Please like and share this video out. Pretty important, I think, to get this out to the masses right now with everything that's going on, because we need to know where we stand, not to be afraid, and exposing the darkness in Jesus' name. We will see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for joining me.